This is Devin writing daily. Once again, it's another day, so it's another writing daily episode. Welcome. Today we are going to talk about probably what I believe to be the easiest way to start writing at all. Like if you just have aspirations of being a writer, we're not necessarily talking about the great American novel per se. We're just talking about writing. I want to write something more than a letter to my grandmother. We're going to cover that today. And for those who don't know, my name is Devin Galaudet, the editor-in-chief of In the Know Traveler, as well as the author of the forthcoming memoir, 10,000 Miles with My Dead Father's Ashes. I like the way that rolls out. It just means that I spent a lot of time on writing, and hopefully I've done a wonderful job at it. Anyway, today I am disheveled and unshaven, and it's Monday, and how is it that I'm already tired? Well, I had a very busy weekend. I'm not going to dive too much into that. But as you all know, this writing business is something that we do constantly. I was actually speaking with a guy named Steve Heller, who is kind of like the head of the program chair. I think that's kind of makes him the biggest cheese at Antioch's MFA program. And he's like, you just have to do it. Like you just write because that's what's in you. And so that's kind of where I'm at. You don't have to be that far along, so to speak, but if you are, then just embrace the fact this is kind of who you are. You're going to sit down and write. So anyway, today's subject, and this, I keep saying to myself and keep saying to you that this is going to be like a really fast, short episode, and then I end up yammering on. So I'm reading a book called I Wear the Black Hat by Chuck Klosterman. He's a pretty well-known essayist, and he writes on a variety of different kind of cultural subjects, and this one is about sort of like villains and villainy and how you look at it, and he's twisting it around and turning it on its head, and he writes some pretty brilliant essays. And so I think that's where I'm going to start today. Is like, where do you start? I'd like to say that if you want to write like Chuck Klosterman, good luck. He's a really good writer, and what he does very well. But I guess what I'm saying here is that the kind of article, what I believe is one of the easiest things to do if you just want to start writing, is write out your opinion. This kind of falls under the umbrella of either a personal editorial, personal narrative. What's the real phrase that I'm looking for here? It's just kind of a personal essay. And so he kind of goes off on whatever direction he wants to go. And every essay that he writes may be something that really fits perfectly into a particular genre. And other times he doesn't at all. And I love that. I personally got started with writing personal essays, and I kind of decided to write about anything I felt like writing whenever I felt like writing it. And it was actually under the heading of Frater Mo. I think it was called Panning for Gold. And I wrote about 45, maybe 50 articles that were sort of like more, out there in terms of their style and idea. It was very philosophical in nature. And I wrote about dreams to the sacred magic of Abramelin, a 15th century grimoire. And so I did a whole bunch of different things, and I didn't apologize for it. And I, in rereading some of those essays, some are actually surprisingly good, and some of them are terrible, like straight up terrible. And I'm pretty sure, even though that it's been quite a number of years since I've written them, that they were awful then. Like it wasn't a secret. I think a friend of mine who edited them, kind of knew that they were awful, but I think they were passable. Like they were a starting point. And I think the most important part is that they were honest. Like I was telling exactly how it was that I was feeling. I was talking about in my truth, and I try to do all the things that I talk about here. I try to write in pictures. I try to be honest. I try to write in clear and concise ideas. And so hopefully by the end of it, people understood what was my point. Why would they want to read this stuff? I think in some cases it was clearly like, yeah, I was onto something. And in some other cases it was like, well, maybe this was a good first draft, and maybe it needed to be written. And I guess really what I'm suggesting is that who among us doesn't have an opinion, and it's probably one of the easiest places to start. A matter of fact, if you were new, I might pick a very controversial subject with the expectation that I'm not really trying to sell an article per se, but I'm trying to get my writing chops together. And so what I might challenge everybody to do is actually kind of make a list of, say, their top 10 controversial ideas, and then pick one and start writing it. And it's mostly to kind of get clarity in what it is that you're writing, to translate all of the things that you are passionate about in your controversial subject and writing about them. It could be sort of, Coral, good to see you. Thank you for joining us. And by the way, yes, if you are liking what I'm talking about, liking what I'm doing, please consider hitting the like button and the wow button, or join me at devingallaudet.com/dad if you're interested in learning more about my books. But so we're talking about essays, and I think the thing that you want to be focusing on, I'm glad that you made it, Coral. I think the thing that you want to be focusing on is just telling the absolute truth. I'm not suggesting that you then take this controversial article and throw it out there to the world. You can. You absolutely can. But it's a great way to start, because most people are very clear on their defined opinions about certain kinds of things that are about society and God and religion and philosophy and culture, right? So it's easy to have those dialogues within ourselves. And what I would suggest is that you start with, here's my opinion on such and such. And then I might lead into, here's what other people might disagree with me about, and here is how I might challenge their opinion. And I'm not necessarily suggesting that, again, that you get into fights with people online. I don't think you need to do that. And I don't even, really what I'm suggesting is you don't even have to put it out there. You don't have to try to get it published. But what I think is the important goal here is to have real clarity in what it is that you're trying to say. And I think one of the easiest things to do is by having a strong opinion about anything. It doesn't mean that you're right, and it doesn't mean you're wrong. What it means is that you're taking the strong feeling opinion and writing it out thoroughly, and coming from it as many points as possible, so you have a sense of completion, right? And funnily enough, I've done this exercise myself, and I can't remember where I got it. Otherwise, I would give credit to it. But if you write down really what's going on here, why are you having a strong opinion on something, you may discover that you may not necessarily even agree with your own opinion by the time you get done with your essay. And what's beautiful about the essay is, if it's 500 words, big thumbs up. If it's 2,500 words, big thumbs up. If it leads into a much longer form piece, big thumbs up. But it's a great place to start, because most people will have a sense of, again, we have a sense of purpose. I think that's just kind of ingrained in our humanity, that we have these opinions. Somebody will say something, we disagree or we strongly agree, and then we get to explore why we are agreeing or disagreeing. And it isn't, in my humble opinion, it isn't about winning a debate than it is about having clarity about why you believe the things that you do. And I think part of what I like about Chuck Klosterman and what I'm reading so far is that I think in part of what he's doing is writing about how he feels about these things that happen around us in the world. How do we come to the conclusion of, matter of fact, one of the examples he gives in his first paragraph is that we have this image in our mind of the evil, sinister person tying an unsuspecting woman to the railroad tracks. And he goes on to say that this may be the height of villainy, but it's not a practical way to be a villain. It's actually an incredible amount of work, and it's a terrible idea. Like, if I think the idea is that I'm so evil, I'm going to tie somebody to this train tracks, and then I'm going to watch from the distance and receive some sort of perverse pleasure. It makes no sense whatsoever. But this is kind of a starting point of examining how is villainy happening in our society. So anyway, I'm enjoying the book, but I think most importantly, it's a really great way to enter into writing. Like if you want to write that great book, or you want to write that memoir, or you want to write down your secrets, this is a great way to start, because then you can start looking at how you sound when you start talking about challenging subjects, because truthfully, that's really what we're doing. As I've talked about many a time, my own memoir is about writing some challenging ideas. It's not going to be popular with everybody, but I think I told the truth. I told what my real experience was. So anyway, as always, if you like what I'm saying, please consider liking Devin Galaudet, my little fan page over here. Like this particular page here that we're on right now. And, consider, if you want to know more about my memoir, find me at devingallaudet.com/dad, where I give away some free stuff. And I'm going to be doing that this week. My giveaways are going to be happening, which is going to be fun. You get to read other people's works, and at some point in the near future, we'll be doing more along that. So anyway, that's what I've got for today. We're going to be back again tomorrow, because writing daily is a daily exercise, and we're going to keep talking about my favorite subject in the world, which is writing. And as always, feel free to ask questions down here, and I will do my very best to always answer them, whether we are together live or whether you're seeing me on either SoundCloud or iTunes or one of the many other things that I'm on. Anyway, thanks for joining me, and I will look forward to seeing you guys again real soon. Thanks.